listening to Trinidad Parade Classics, mixed by A1 Unlimited. Let the Christmas vibes begin.
I wake up Christmas morning, I say I go in Parangin. From the time I leave my home, I decide to Parangin alone. I got to check on Susan first, to wish her a Merry Christmas. Before I go take a seat, she started to buy anything to eat. A roast pork, curry chicken, dal, crab and dumpling, pie, pastel. Eat something before you go. Yeah, eat something before you go. Eat something before you go. Eat something before you go. Capitán, baila mi amigo. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. When I say I gotta check her out, she say no. Stay like we have a ball. It's only now you just pass through. This is why I prepare for you. You know today is Christmas Day. Anything you want to eat, just say. You could eat it right on through the bowl. Boy, make yourself at home. A black cake, silky, white meat, lap and goatee, grapes, apple. Boy, come and sit round the table. Eat something before you go. Eat something before you go. Eat it. Eat something before you go. Eat something before you go. Hold on. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. A violin and a banjo. They say they always had a plan to give me family a parang. They wake up my mommy right away when they ring out with the club way. My Jeffrey, oh, get up. Hey, like you are here in the back of crew, yeah, no girl. Madam Jeffrey, oh, get up. Time to put
Christmas morning, everybody busy doing something. Who were painting, they scrubbing. Who were scrubbing, they cooking. Sister hanging up the curtains, a salt and boiling in the yard. Rasta grab up the hot picture in a ham and dash up like he man. Hey, hey, ay, 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 oh, Christmas, a time to be loving. Hey, ay, 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 oh, Christmas, a time to be giving. Hey, ay, 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 oh, Christmas, a time to be sharing. Hey, ay, ay, oh, Lord, I'm feeling so fat. Neighbor, neighbor, never come and party and fat. Neighbor, neighbor, never bring me children and fat. Neighbor, 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 neighbor. Next thing you know, hot sun shining. The day start off with a bang. I hear Marac and Quattro strumming. Gomez and Pedro come to Parang. They sang the Annunciation, followed by an Aguinaldo. But they lick up 2 bottles of rum and a pot of coffee before they go. Hey, hey, ay, 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 yo, Christmas, a time to be loving. Hey, ay, 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 yo, Christmas, a time to be giving. Hey, ay, 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 yo, Christmas, a time to be sharing. Hey, ay, 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 yo, oh Lord, I'm feeling too fat. Neighbor, neighbor, oh, yo, 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 yo. Yes, I feel too fat. Neighbor, neighbor, ay, 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 fat. Neighbor, 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 neighbor.
Drink a rum and a punch and cream and drink a rum. Drink a rum and a punch and cream and drink a rum. Drink a rum and a punch and cream and drink a rum. Drink a rum and a punch and cream and drink a rum. Drink a rum and a punch and cream and drink a rum.
Muma, Muma, would you like to join your sonny? I am over here, happy in the mother country. Darling, for the Christmas, your son would be really jumping. Listen to the chorus of what we all will be singing.
Drink a rum and a punch and cream and drink a rum.
It's Christmas morning.
Drink a rum and a punch and cream and drink a rum.
Mama, drink it, you drink it.
Drink a rum and a punch and cream and drink a rum.
Let we fed it, we fed it.
Drink a rum and a punch and cream and drink a rum.
Again, Muma, I have invited Jamaica, lovely Grenada, Barbados, also Guyana. It's an invitation for a stupendous occasion. You can just imagine, we drink until New Year's morning.
Drink a rum and a punch and cream and drink a rum.
It's Christmas morning.
Drink a rum and a punch and cream and drink a rum.
Do drink if you're drinking.
Drink a rum and a punch and cream and drink a rum.
Mama, sing if you're singing.
Drink a rum and a punch and cream and drink a rum.
I see her and I want her. I got to have her. Hey. Oh yeah. I want that
You're listening to Trinidad Parade Classics, mixed by A1 Unlimited. Let the Christmas vibes begin.
something before you go. Yeah, eat something before you go. Eat something before you go. Eat something before you go. Capitán, baila mi amigo. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. When I say I gotta check her out, she say no. Stay like we have a ball. It's only now you just pass through. This is why I prepare for you. You know today is Christmas Day. Anything you want to eat, just say. You could eat it right on through the bowl. Boy, make yourself at home. A black cake, silky, white meat, lap and goatee, grapes, apples. Boy, come and sit round the table. Eat something before you go. Eat something before you go. Eat it. Eat something before you go. Eat something before you go. Hold on. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na.
Property tax, the dreaded property tax. Anybody telling the population that this PNM coming into office will bring back that tax is the highest level of dishonesty. What this UNC government did a few years ago, they returned to land and building taxes in phases. The first phase of bringing the tax back was to treat with commercial properties. The second phase was agricultural properties. And the third phase is the residential. So as I speak to you now, arrangements are already in place put by this UNC administration for land and building taxes to come back into being after September 7th. That was done by Larry Hawaii when he became Minister of Finance. So for anybody telling the population that this PNM coming into office will bring back that tax is the highest level of dishonesty.
Live from the Hyatt Regency Hotel, the People's National Movement to
dreaded property tax. The dreaded property tax. Anybody telling the population that this PNM coming into office will bring back that tax is the highest level of dishonesty. What this UNC government did a few years ago, they returned to land and building taxes in phases. The first phase of bringing the tax back was to treat with commercial properties. The second phase was agricultural properties. And the third phase is the residential. So as I speak to you now, arrangements are already in place put by this UNC administration for land and building taxes to come back into being after September 7th. That was done by Larry Hawaii when he became Minister of Finance. So for anybody telling the population that this PNM coming into office will bring back that tax is the highest level of dishonesty.
Live from the Hyatt Regency Hotel, the People's National Movement to
dreaded property tax. The dreaded property tax. Anybody telling the population that this PNM coming into office will bring back that tax is the highest level of dishonesty. What this UNC government did a few years ago, they returned to land and building taxes in phases. The first phase of bringing the tax back was to treat with commercial properties. The second phase was agricultural properties. And the third phase is the residential. So as I speak to you now, arrangements are already in place put by this UNC administration for land and building taxes to come back into being after September 7th. That was done by Larry Hawaii when he became Minister of Finance. So for anybody telling the population that this PNM coming into office will bring back that tax is the highest level of dishonesty.
Live from the Hyatt Regency Hotel, the People's National Movement to
Dreaded property tax. The dreaded property tax. Anybody telling the population that this PNM coming into office will bring back that tax is the highest level of dishonesty. What this UNC government did a few years ago, they returned to London building taxes in phases. The first phase of bringing the tax back was to treat with commercial properties. The second phase was agricultural properties. And the third phase is the residential. So as I speak to you now, arrangements are already in place put by this UNC administration for London building taxes to come back into being after September 7th. That was done by Larry Hawaii when he became Minister of Finance. So for anybody telling the population that this PNM coming into office will bring back that tax is the highest level of dishonesty.
Live from the Hyatt Regency Hotel, the People's National Movement to
Dreaded property tax. The dreaded property tax. Anybody telling the population that this PNM coming into office will bring back that tax is the highest level of dishonesty. What this UNC government did a few years ago, they returned to London building taxes in phases. The first phase of bringing the tax back was to treat with commercial properties. The second phase was agricultural properties.
Yes, indeed. Pleasant good night to all and sundry. I thought it was important, of course, enough for to interrupt my own beginning of the Christmas festivity for more urgent national duty. You know what I say? I say for more urgent national duty. And so it was clearly incumbent on me, having regard, of course, to all of the stir, all of the disquiet, all of the discombobulation that has emerged as a consequence of the disclosure of this particular, of course, video where Dr. Rowley was saying categorically at a very significant event, that is to say, at the launch of the PNM's manifesto in 2015, and you hear him very distinctly indicating that no way the PNM will engage or in any way pursue that tax. Let's hear him again as he describes that particular tax as what? I don't want to put any words in his mouth. Let us hear from the horse's mouth, so to speak, as to what he was saying and how he described that tax. And today is a different story. But we will go to today after we hear him again.
Coming into office will bring back that tax is the highest level of dishonesty.
Live from the Hyatt Regency Hotel, the People's National Movement to
Dreaded property tax. The dreaded property tax. Anybody telling the population that this PNM coming into office will bring back that tax is the highest level of dishonesty. What this UNC government did a few years ago, they returned to London building taxes in phases. The first phase of bringing the tax back was to treat with commercial properties. The second phase was agricultural properties. And the third phase is the residential. So as I speak to you now, arrangements are already in place put by this UNC administration for London building taxes to come back into being after September 7th. That was done by Larry Hawaii when he became Minister of Finance. So for anybody telling the population that this PNM coming into office will bring back that tax is the highest level of dishonesty.
And it is clear Dr. Rowley has continuously on a sliding scale to be completely, totally, absolutely, and of course, irrefutably and irretrievably dishonest. You know what I say? I say he is irretrievably dishonest. But before we go there, let me say a pleasant good night to all and sundry east, northwest, central, or present Tobago, and wherever you are. But I thought it was important in this matter to, of course, forego any, what I consider to be frolic on a Friday, to, of course, at least engage for at least 1 hour. Because it is important for us not to lose sight of the fact that property tax is the monofocus of this government into 2024. We must be able, of course, not only to generate the argument and not only, of course, disabuse that notion, but also to demonstrate the level of conmanship, the level of deception, the level of hoodwinking, and of course, the recent gaslighting, when of course they then reconfigured their original intent, and we must be, of course, very clear here. We must be very pellucid. We must be, of course, very articulate and, of course, rational. I am talking from the premise that it was always the intent of Rowley and Imbert and his government or his party to implement property tax. The conclusion or the corollary that we must, of course, consider is the level and depth at which Rowley and his minions have gone to introduce this new tax, property tax. The extent to which he has gone totally neutralizes and rendered null and void and of no effect the original statement that he would have made. And it has other connotations because it also reinforces the position and the series that we, not so long ago, we of course engaged in and demonstrating that it was the intent all the time, a conspirator's intent to hoodwink the population, get into government, and when they get into government, being protected, of course, by the legalities and the niceties, I had to say, because, of course, he loves to play golf at our expense. He loves to fly at our expense. He loves, of course, to spend money on vanity projects at our expense. He loves, of course, to spend money on fake and, of course, fake accusations, fake legal matters, and, of course, give their legal friends millions of dollars, our money, nothing to do with him. And he goes home and sleep comfortably. I say he must have an uncomfortable Christmas, just as the thousands of us have an uncomfortable Christmas. He too, and therefore we have a duty and responsibility, those of us who are conscious, to of course make it very difficult for the government to have a comfortable Christmas. They must know that the ill-gotten gains and the ill-gotten presents, let me repeat that, the ill-gotten gains and the ill-gotten presents is well known to the international, the regional, the hemispheric, and of course all of Trinidad and Tobago. Rowley and they cannot go into their respective ill-gotten homes and wealth and then come back out after the Christmas as if nothing has happened. We must make them know that if we are uncomfortable, they too must be uncomfortable. You lied. You are a deceiver. You are a criminal. You are a wicked and dangerous fella. And of course, on top of all of that, On top of all of that, he pretended that he have a love for the public servants. And he wanted, of course, to get them their monies before Christmas. Well, tomorrow is Saturday. Tomorrow is Saturday, Rowley. And all of your fake, pretensive concern for the public servants and for people in general. You mean all it can't even get right the distribution of food cards? A system that has been there from since before Kamala Prasad Bisesa? Are you saying, Rowley, that you are so dense, you and your cohorts? Or is it that because of your evil and because of your propensity to do evil and to execute evil, that your recklessness and brutal behavior and your macabre and your, of course, your unsavory conduct that's created the conditions, whether it be in the area of disbelief or not. The fact of the matter is that they cannot even get right the distribution of food cards for Christmas. For Christmas. Now let us now look at the comparative, because it is important. All now, today, Kamala would have been up and down the East-West corridor and across the country, bringing chairs and goodwill to the people in spite of their challenges. I am not saying that everybody will be, of course, at the same level in terms of poverty or non-poverty, but certainly, the distribution of a food card, a system that has been in place for nearly 15 years, and Rowley administration can't get it right. And in spite of his, what I consider to be his self-conceited, self-promoting, egotistic, suddenly self-righteous indignation, and thrown under the bus a public servant in the meantime, in that process, because the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Education mentioned that those for whom he is responsible, talking about in the teachers, would not receive their money before next year. Rowley was angry. He was irascible. He was apoplectic. He couldn't contain his anger. And all of that turned out to be false, fake, as he himself is. The man is a total Oreo, a total wicked and evil Oreo. And now that the entire PNM establishment knows who he is and what his stance was in terms of property tax, and then doing his utmost evil best to, of course, implement it next year on the 1st of January, according to IMSBERT, we must, of course, decry and we must tell a telling blow that this is not acceptable and will not be acceptable, and they cannot have a comfortable Christmas into the new year. We already see that crime has gone haywire, even though we just have about a week and a half again, if so long. But of course, he will go and sleep comfortable because he's a rank liar, he's a rank deceiver, he's a rank, of course, dishonest individual. And so it's important. But it's not just property tax, you know. At that same meeting in 2015 at the Hyatt, he also committed himself not to deal with, of course, subsidies. The first of the various lies that he implemented early in the game, and then, of course, leading to the dismantling of Petrotrin. Let me tell all you something. Let us be clear here and fair. if Rowley was not around, do you think that Petrotrin would have been in the state that it is today? The Kamala Prasad Bisesa never gave any indication, nor indeed did he, Rowley. But the big difference is, we have seen that during the course of the 10 years or the 5 years of the Kamala Prasad Bisesa administration, what they said they would have done, they did. In the 8 years of this man so far, what he said in a major way that he would do, he has not done. And then he makes these flimsy, nebulous, and of course, what I consider to be lunatic excuses. Is a lunatic could make them kind of excuses and survive in a democracy like ours. But what we have is this. We have the convenience of social media, and we must, of course, utilize it in order, of course, to share the disgust, the disturbance, and, of course, the expression of the reckless behavior and the ruthless behavior and of course, the breach of the rule of law and the willingness of the Rowley administration not only to infiltrate and to, of course, subvert in independent institutions such as the DPP, the EBC, and of course the Police Service Commission, and we can go on and on in terms of other independent institutions, but those come to mind immediately and ought to be readily available for your own, what I consider to be not only consumption, but to disseminate among your colleagues over this holiday and into the new year. We must shorten 2024. We must tell Rowley and they that they have to get the hell out of office in 2024. We must not be able to relent. We must be able to say in uncertain terms, the evidence is so pellucid, the evidence is so convincing, the evidence is so irrefutable, the evidence is so culpable, the evidence is so substantively and substantially supporting an indictment of the present administration and Rowley and that they should go and hide their blasted faces in some labas or in some drain or in some swamp, as the case may be, wherever, to get the hell out of our faces. So let us not waste time. Yes, of course, I'm sweating, but I'm sweating from two perspectives. One, the fan they have not, of course, put in the fan for me. And secondly, I did not, of course, plan to have a live tonight. And thirdly, of course, I'm very, 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 what I consider to be energized, and therefore, with energy, you are going to have, of course, the consequence of kinetic energy, movements, energy consequential of movements or generates movement, and therefore, of course, as a human being, as a person who would, of course, have similar functions like yourself, with exertion, come of course, the glands of the skin will certainly expand, and then of course one will begin to sweat or perspire, as some people prefer to say. But that being as it may, it has nothing to do with the substantive matter. Let's hear Rowley again in this bizarre, wicked, nasty, and of course attempt to try to make us forget what he said in the Hyatt in very, 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 what I consider to be convincing environment. There were ambassadors there. Yeah. And he said this. And now you are trying to pretend as though you never said it and blaming everybody except yourself. Hold your tail, you political kobo.
The People's National Movement.
The dreaded property tax. Anybody telling the population that this PNM coming into office will bring back that tax is the highest level of dishonesty. What this UNC government did a few years ago, they returned to London building taxes in phases. The first phase of bringing the tax back was to treat with commercial properties. The second phase was agricultural properties. And the third phase is the residential. So as I speak to you now, arrangements are already in place put by this UNC administration for land and building taxes to come back into being after September 7th. That was done by Larry Hawaii when he became Minister of Finance. So for anybody telling the population that this PNM coming into office will bring back that tax is the highest level of dishonesty.
Live from the Hyatt Regency Hotel, the People's National Movement to
dreaded property tax. The dreaded property tax.
Excuse me a bit.
Anybody telling the population that this PNM coming into office will bring back that tax is the highest level of dishonesty.
I don't want to pretend that I'm at
what this UNC government did a few years ago,
but I am on the line,
they returned to land and building taxes in phases. The first phase of bringing the tax back was to treat
like this.
with
So
commercial
a break whilst, of course, Rowley talking his hogwash.
The second phase was agricultural properties.
No doubt.
And the third phase is the residential. So as I speak to you now, arrangements are already in place put by this UNC administration for land and building taxes to come back into being after September 7th. That was done by Larry Hawaii when he became Minister of Finance. So for anybody telling the population,
like somebody don't want me to go, boy, so let me answer this phone. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. A pleasant good night. Welcome, of course, to the corridor. This special edition. Pleasant good night. Pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor on this special edition on a Friday.
Good night, Lennox, and you look really
good
cool
night
in
to you.
that
Good night
t-shirt.
to you.
Yeah, good night. And I said you look really cool in that t-shirt.
Pardon me?
You know, I said you look really cool in that t-shirt. It's a nice compliment. Hey man, let me get down to the basics, right?
Yes.
You see, when you're talking about the prime minister and you get very angry, I get very angry too, and we have to vent because we're powerless. The only way we can make changes is if we arm ourselves and we run into Port of Spain with guns and we demand that we overthrow the government. And you can't do that because then that would be an insurrection, and then they will kill you. They will kill you and they will arrest you like they will do in other South American countries. And so we have to kind of stay quiet. But one always have to ask the question, why was this prime minister, why was he so angry that the UNC wanted to do a commercial tax first, agriculture next, and then residential? Doesn't that make sense? Because agriculture really is a big income generating business. Agriculture covers animal, goats, sheep, pigs, you name it, that's part of agriculture. Chickens, all of the big, massive chicken farms we have in this country, Nutramix, all of these companies, they should be taxed. And also, all of these businesses that are making billions of dollars, including Massey. All of these buildings, commercial businesses that are up in the mountains, doing Airbnb, hotels, have houses up there, Mars Island, none of them are getting taxed. But you're coming now to tax a person who poor and living in a galvanized house. You're coming to tax somebody who just got out of school and they're working in a bank telling job and they have their husband, they have a child, or they have no children, they get a mortgage and they're now trying to make it. You coming now to tax them? Because you're saying that residential tax comes first, but we go shelve commercial tax? It just, this prime minister, you know what he does? He humiliates us and he fulfills the stereotype of African people. I hate that about him because he's the one who incites racial division. And to tax people, I would say that when you run a democracy or any capitalist country, you want to know what income will be coming from commercial purposes, from export, from GDP, which is the gross national product or whatever. And we, this prime minister, for him to say he's not going to think about commercial tax, it means like that's 3/4 of the budget right there. We don't know how much money could be generated from commercial tax. It could be billions or trillions. Think about it. And you're going to go after a few $1 million from poor people? It just doesn't, it baffles my mind. And so I think what I need to start doing now, and I'm going to encourage other people to do it, is that the pen is mightier than the sword. And if all of us write letters and we deliver it like Santa Claus in bags, in those feed bags, we deliver thousands and thousands of letters and dump it in the Prime Minister's office and read the damn letters and we tell him what we want, because it will get national attention. I mean, we can't do anything because the man is surrounded by amalgamated security. They're in bed with him. He is in bed with all the rich people and they protect him night and day. And he's afraid. He's never going to come out and walk the streets. He said he's terrified of us. He lives in a different planet, in a different society. And so it just frustrates me and it makes me angry to know that tonight and this weekend they're all going to be celebrating Christmas, drinking, partying, music, and when
At our
these
expense.
people going home, they will be living. They'll be passing people living in grinding poverty. You know what I mean? And they will be blind to that. And to me, I don't know. I feel like if we have to live another year like this with this man lying and cheating and enriching himself and his party, because we know he's lying. We know that people who get to parliament, they have to pay. You have to pay to get to parliament, and we know that they give away free houses because I don't want to call Mr. X, but Mr. X said he got 3 houses. He said Aisha Wells got 9 houses, and to be in politics and to, I swear to God, that's what they say. And maybe that what the old lady, what the old gal, the old hag there, what's she name again? Julia Davies. How she get she again on? So she vexed. That is the you know. Let somebody else call, right, Lennox? Lennox, I want to tell you something. I love listening to you. You're so good
Thank you
and
very
you're
much.
so
Thank you
nice
very
and you're
much.
always
Thank you very much.
respectful.
Thank you
All right,
very much.
I'll hang up now. All right,
Yes,
bye.
thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yes, people, and to be angry is normal. To be angry, knowing full well that we are talking about billions of dollars at the disposal of a bunch of crooks who, from the beginning, hoodwinked us. You know, there is a saying that thief from thief make God laugh. And it is also said that when a thief from another thief, that is a cardinal sin. Well, I want to tell you that Rowley and his cohorts are all of the above. They thief from us. They engage in fraternizing and activities that are only permissible with persons with resources and could have only happened because they found themselves where they are. And don't tell me it's because democracy permits that. Why is it there may be some element and the blame to be, of course, be allocated to democracy. The fact of the matter is that democracy also recognizes that people must be honest and that they must say what they mean and mean what they say. This fella and his group, from the beginning, they said what they never meant and was yet to implement. And today they are acting on what they never meant to act upon, or what they told us they will not act upon, but are acting upon it. I mean, it is bizarre. And I trust that tonight will also give a kind of relief valve scenario for some of you. Because just as how I am angry, I know that it is infectious. I know this morning when we, of course, unveiled, and last night, of course, we started last night the process. But these fellas and women cannot eat comfortable. When they eat, they must understand that when they get bloated, and when they overeat, and when they gourmandize, and when they begin, of course, to Lego gas, both from lower and upper orifices, they must know that they have stolen from the poor people of Trinidad and Tobago, and more importantly, that thousands of us are not able, of course, to put a ham on the table or a chicken on the table or buy some maybe foreign apples, of course, at this time traditionally. But of course, orange will do, and they cannot even get orange to buy. And if they get it to buy, then of course it is so damn expensive. You wonder. So at the end of the day, we are talking about, of course, the people who are in abject poverty or who are in abject need, and therefore these fellas, more than the fair share, they gourmandize, and their level of what I consider to be profligacy, waste, and their greed cannot be controlled. And I say so from the perspective, what the hell you doing with a $100 million monstrosity called Balizé headquarters in our faces? What the hell you doing with that? When our children in the ghetto, outside of the ghetto, and we hear now the well-to-do, because Imbert gave the indication, and while, of course, we would benefit from, of course, or piggybacking on that position, because we were feeling it, the poor and the downtrodden across the Gomartin West, across the Gomartin East, and of course Central, across Port of Spain South, across the Lavant Hills, across, of course, San Juan Barataria, to the Puna, and we can go farther afield, right up, of course, and across the country, as far as constituencies are concerned in this country, and therefore the electorate and the people who are occupying the geographic space called Trinidad and Tobago, they are having ham, lamb, and jam in this season. And of course, tapping each other on the shoulders, and of course, giving each other expensive gifts, and of course, convincing each other, obviously, that they have done no wrong. But I want to tell them that I will be in their faces tomorrow. I will be there on Sunday, and I'll be there on Christmas Day as well, and right through Boxing Day, because we have a duty and responsibility to save this country. And therefore these people who, of course, have occupied unmeritoriously and from the beginning conspired in order, of course, to be where they are, we must tell them in no uncertain terms, not only do we know, not only are we conscious, but we are prepared to take action such as this to, of course, enlighten the people, so that when the next opportunity presents itself, as the caller rightly said, we are not barbarians. We are not going to, of course, take things by the bullet, but we are going to use the ballot in order to tell Rowley and they where to get off. And if that results in they becoming, of course, prisoners in the penal system of the country, then of course it's even better. It is sweet, sweet, sweet revenge. Having regard, the money won't come back. The mismanagement and the profligacy and the waste and all of the programs that have failed, and all of the iniquities and all of the draconian measures and all of the taking from the poor and the dispossessing, taking more than your fair share under the guise that you're some kind of lame duck government. And of course, they will not lie down. They will continue, of course, to be on our faces and telling us that they come here to stay, and somehow somebody bequeath Trinidad and Tobago to them. Well, I want to know if it's Eric Williams. I want to know who gave Trinidad and Tobago to Eric Williams. I want to know that. And anybody believing that you had to be a compound fool, because it is about Trinidad and Tobago. It is about our citizens. We have enough resources to share, and that level of benefits, that level of largesse that Rowley was presented with by the outgoing UNC administration under Kamala Persad-Bissessar. It is bizarre. It's $5 billion in the Heritage and Civilization Fund, US. It is over $10 billion in the reserves. And these nincompoops believing that somehow we are going to be in perpetual ignorance. They then, of course, try to tell us that his recent trips abroad, of course, qualify now for the frequent flyer, having passed, of course, those that Kamala Persad-Bissessar, and one doesn't have to have these statistics. Common sense will tell you that. The casual observer will observe that and conclude that. But the fact of the matter is that all those trips, they keep saying 2 billion here, 2 billion there, etc. But at the end of the day, the blasted reserve has moved from 10 billion, 12 months of import, to, of course, they say 6 months, I say 4 months, which might amount to about 4 or 5 months of import, and putting us closer and closer to jeopardy. And thus, the ravenous and the brutal and the unrelenting and the persistence of looking to bring property taxes so as to not only take away mattress money, not only fool the elderly in the country who would be the ones that own properties and so on, and are the ones, unfortunately, they are under attack, people, because they were the ones that Rowley and them say, come and get your vaccine, otherwise you can't get your pension. That is what this man did. He decimated and wanted, because he believed that he had to turn rock, so he doesn't. And somehow, if he gets rid of all of the other senior citizens, he somehow will live on and probably turn some kind of big stone. Well, I tell you, if he believes that he studied too much blasted rock, and therefore you will understand why he's a rockhead, because of course he's a what? A geologist or a volcanologist. Well, I say jump in a blasted volcanic vent, Rowley. Jump in a blasted volcanic vent for what you have done to the people. Wicked and nasty and evil. And so, people, I thought it was important, of course, to share this with you. We are fast exhausting that hour. I know that other people, you can call me now, because if you don't, it means, therefore, in the next 10 or 15 minutes, I will be out of here. But of course, let's hear Dr. Rowley again tomorrow night. Of course, I will show you where in that same exercise, he told us in front of ambassadors to make it look as though they were genuine, and that they really were concerned about Trinidad and Tobago and its development. They said it in front of ambassadors. So they bring witnesses of repute to tell the nation that the PNM will not engage in property tax and will not engage in subsidies. But months after they got into government, Imbert was laughing at us and saying that we ain't riot yet, after he reduced, of course, subsidies once, twice, 3 times. Those kinds of evil must no longer be kept under cover or in any way, or put another way, every opportunity to expose these ruthless, brutal, marauding, and complete and total predators in more ways than one. And you know, I can't complete a program without saying in non-certain terms that Rowley's a blasted rapist and pedophile. That rapist and pedophile. So Imbert Camille Robinson Regis and all of them, their leader is a rapist and a pedophile, and they're comfortable with that. And then, worse yet, they purported to be a leader for Trinidad and Tobago. Well, Tobago said no. Farley told them in non-certain terms when they reach a certain place closer to the Prime Ministerial house in Tobago. The rest of Tobago belongs to the THA. That's what he told. That's what Farley told Rowley. You ever say, I'm going to bring that too, don't get me vexed. I tell you that Farley told Rowley when he reached the gates of the house for the Prime Minister, that too mired in bubble, because like a dog sucking egg, continues, of course, to do the same thing over and over. You can't expect a different result. Well, the same result resulted when, of course, there is accusations that the Warner friend of his who got the job, of course, to construct some road leading to the Prime Minister's house in Tobago, suddenly and simultaneously, Rowley was also constructing his family dwelling accommodation, rental or otherwise, having, of course, passed law in the parliament to give themselves 25 years tax-free. Yes, people, tax-free. And so they're going on that. And watch me. First, they are deliberate, I won't say cunning. First, they're greedy. They're avarice knows no boundary. You know what they have done? When they put that law in place for people to construct family dwellings or dwelling places or apartments, high-rise or otherwise, and they will not be subjected to 25 years tax-free. Guess what? They eliminated those persons who already had in existence similar type buildings. In other words, it started from the time that they passed the law, because them know that they were going, of course, to build these accommodations or these edifices of a monstrosity nature, because I consider that as well as Balize House monstrosities. And so they know that, and therefore they calculated that too many people would come on board and benefit. So those who had these similar family dwellings, apartment buildings, before the implementation of the measure that they put there for themselves, they could not and cannot benefit. Cannot benefit. That is the kind of evil we have, self-serving, in our in our so-called government. And you're telling me I must respect them? Haul on your tail, all the political kobo. You are criminals, you are murderers, you are... And not only murderers, not only, of course, criminals, not only, well, of course, a criminal, it doesn't matter, you could use the term interchangeably, but the fact of the matter is that they also engage in cannibalism, political cannibalism. Yeah, they went to, during the course of the local government election, and literally poached on the UNC, the very people who they say they don't love and nobody must love, particularly the Africans. Man, wake up now, man. Wake up, man. Wake up. Stop making yourself fools. The best in this country in the 60s, the 70s, and the early 80s, the best doctor, the best pilot, the best lawyer was a Trinbagonian. How come you are so complacent? Why? Because these nincompoops, who clearly have extreme cases of inferiority complex, they can't string a good word or sentence together. They cannot rationalize properly. They can't even make a good excuse. Imagine the kind of excuse. You want to hit Rowley one clout behind the head when he made that excuse. About 3 of them for Delcy Rodriguez. You want to hit him one clout behind the head when, of course, he make the excuse for closing down Petrotrin. You wanted him one clout when, of course, he made the diverse excuses for, of course, interfering with the shortlist that involve, of course, the former Commissioner of Police, Gary Griffith. One clout you wanted him when he talked about 3 or 4 times, and afterwards he said it was him. After, of course, Kamala Prasad Bisesa, and I want to say to her, and of course her party and her family, I want to say, God keep you, God, of course, richly bless you, because of course you have a lot of work to do, but of course you will get the support from persons like myself. I could guarantee you that, and I will work my tail off for free. For free. I will do so gratis, because it is abominable, it is wicked, it is nasty that these people, they're ugly like, some say like, I say uglier than sin, and want, of course, to come in our faces with that ugly, what I consider to be configurations or ugly countenance, and I must countenance that, and I'm talking, of course, vicariously for the other people who cannot stomach them kind of faces. Hines, if they have that kind of face, they have a feminine propensity like Brown, and of course Gonzalez, the Minister of Public Utilities. That is what we have paraded as Minister and Prime Minister. Get the hell out, you political cobos. That means, as it may, of course, the people, time flies very fast. Of course, we just have 1 more minute. Let us play again. So I will not play the part where he talked about the whole question of subsidies, as well as I had a crime focused video as well, where Hines talking to the very people who Rowley say and he say and creating the problems, and saying that he come to join them. Hines come to join them. Yes, we have that. All hell must now break loose. All hell. And you sycophants, step aside. If you cannot come and do the right thing, step aside. Step aside and let people who are conscious and who are concerned about your children, your family, your grandchildren, etc., born and unborn, step aside. Because you are providing no fodder. You are providing no quality. You are providing no support for what is inevitable, and that is to get rid of these vipers led by a total and absolute criminal called Keith Christopher Rowley. They must not have any time to eat properly. They must get indigestion, yes, and they must get at the same time diarrhea, and they must, of course, regurgitate. So they must vomit. In other words, they must to themselves, and they must, of course, find themselves having to spend money because of food poisoning. Yes, for eating voluptuously at our expense from the treasury of Trinidad and the Tobago. And they are telling us that they are what? Prime Minister? They're what? Ministers? People, listen to this evil.
Live from the Hyatt Regency Hotel, the People's National Movement to
Dreaded property tax. The dreaded property tax. Anybody telling the population that this PNM coming into office will bring back that tax is the highest level of dishonesty. What this UNC government did a few years ago, they returned to land and building taxes in phases. The first phase of bringing the tax back was to treat with commercial properties. The second phase was agricultural properties. And the third phase is the residential. So as I speak to you now, arrangements are already in place, put by this UNC administration, for land and building taxes to come back into being after September 7th. That was done by Larry Hawaii when he became Minister of Finance. So for anybody in telling the population that this PNM coming into office will bring back that tax is the highest level of dishonesty.
And they have the audacity, the temerity, the gall, the effrontery, the boldfacedness, and the obnoxiousness to tell us in the last local government elections, find another way, similar to the various ways that they told us why they closed down Petrotrin, why he interfered, of course, with the shortlist at the police service commission, and so many others, including Delcy Rodriguez, and why, of course, he is fraternizing with and will not, of course, call a spade and tell Maduro as it is. No, all kinds of different excuses. But I want to tell you finally, because of course it's 3 minutes past 9 already. We said 1 hour. The man is so despicable. The man is so dishonest that in the 2023, of course, August 14th elections and running up to that, not only was he poaching UNC rejects, not only was he poaching UNC rejects, or who couldn't make the grade or the standard, not only that, but he told us in no uncertain terms that the property tax was supposed to be for who? Or for the regional corporations. But they know he changed the tune again. The whole ethos, the whole strategy, in other words, stratagem, was simply to lure people into a state of complacency and acceptance, whilst they, of course, manipulate, and shift the goalposts, whilst they get their way, usually in the form of the parliamentary process, even though the opposition would not support it. But because they have a slim majority, they engage in that kind of barbaric conduct to deceive and to painfully impose draconian and evil measures on the people. So he tells us, dear local government campaign was based on property tax, believing that somehow we would forget what transpired in the Hyatt. So we are asses. Well, I want to tell Rowley and all the asses are grasses. You know what I say? I say all the asses are grasses. We are going to expose, we are going to be relentless, we are going to be deliberate, we are going to be consistent, we are not going to in any way relent. Just as so, all they have a propensity to, of course, come up, conjure, go and sleep, and concoct all kinds of excuses and, of course, projects and initiative to, of course, steal our money. We too will be similarly sleepless. Yes, we will be sleepless. We will be persistent. We will be in a state of total insomnia. That is what we will be. We will take night and make day for people like Olia. Olia have to get to hell out of office, and the people of Diego Martin West must understand the viper that they have as a parliamentary representative, and the people of Trinidad and Tobago must know that this man is not only unworthy, but he is toxic, he is poison, he is detrimental to the health of Trinidad and Tobago. He has, of course, weaponized government against the people, and therefore that kind of belligerence, that kind of agony and pain that he has, of course, imposed by his policies and programs, and pretending, of course, that he holier than thou, must be eliminated. must be eliminated. So he came there and told us that, listen, property tax is for the regional corporation. Well, guess what? The measure that they're taking now is to say that land and building, not land and building, but of course property tax at the level of residents will be for the corporations. That's what they say. They didn't say how yet. Because my common sense tells me that all corporations do not have a sufficient cadre of buildings to earn tax from in order to deliver, particularly those that are in the not so well developed parts of the country. In other words, where there is country type or rustic type environment, where they get the buildings from, large spans of land and houses, of course, are sparsely populated, sparsely spaced out. How the hell they getting property tax from that? So I want to see, but the whole intention is merely to pacify and to lure the population into a state of complacency. That is what is happening here. And what they will do ultimately is to send everything to the blasted consolidated fund, and then they will say that they will now take from that and distribute, because that policy can't work. It can't work. It's impossible. You have a built-up area like Port of Spain, and then you have, of course, a sparsely populated area like, let's say, Rio Claro. You understand where I'm coming from? How the hell that working? Tabaqui to Talparo. How that working? Vast land space with very little houses. How it's working? They're going to use that money. But what is significant, more significant, as part of that conspiracy to deceive and to, of course, believe that we are in a perpetual state of stupor. But I want to tell Rowley and they that the stupidity or the stupor has boomeranged. The stupidity, the laugh is on all you. Because they told us that, listen, why said they were skeptical and they were not certain, pretending, of course, but they were engaged in terms of business property, in terms of industrial property. They say they will take that for themselves. And of course, the other residential will be given to, of course, the regional, as if somehow we are consummate asses and that, of course, they are doing us some kind of favor, when in fact that ought not to be in the first place. Let us hear it again before we make our departure.
Live from the Hyatt Regency Hotel, the People's National Movement to
Dreaded property tax. The dreaded property tax. Anybody telling the population that this PNM coming into office will bring back that tax is the highest level of dishonesty. What this UNC government did a few years ago, they returned to land and building taxes in phases. The first phase of bringing the tax back was to treat with commercial properties. The second phase was agricultural properties. And the third phase is the residential. So as I speak to you now, arrangements are already in place put by this UNC administration for land and building taxes to come back into being after September 7th. That was done by Larry Hawaii when he became Minister of Finance. So for anybody telling the population that this PNM coming into office will bring back that tax is the highest level of dishonesty.
live from the Hyatt Regency Hotel, the People's National Movement to
dreaded property tax. The dreaded property tax.
People, of course, this has been a special edition of the corridor transformation. Tonight, of course, a Friday night, supposed to be my night off. But, of course, I will be in full flight tomorrow night, as well as Sunday, as well as Monday, as well as Tuesday. So you will hear from us right through, of course. During the day, of course, we will be distributing from tomorrow, of course, the various hampers that we normally will deliver to various homes that are in need, and, of course, a little toy or so and sometimes we get tears of joy when we, of course, visit these homes. So I have a little challenge with respect to transport, but I think I'll be able to handle it. And there are good Samaritans out there who would love, of course, to engage in, of course, engage with people who mean well, do well, and say what they mean and mean what they say. Not like Rowley and they, who are total vipers. So, of course, let me conclude, of course, in this special edition of the
Live from the Hyatt Regency Hotel, the People's National Movement to
dreaded property tax. The dreaded property tax. Anybody telling the population that this PNM coming into office will bring back that tax is the highest level of dishonesty. What this UNC government did a few years ago, they returned to London building taxes in phases. The first phase of bringing the tax back was to treat with commercial properties. The second phase was agricultural properties. And the third phase is the residential. So as I speak to you now, arrangements are already in place, put by this UNC administration, for London building taxes to come back into being after September 7th. That was done by Larry Hawaii when he became Minister of Finance.
So people, of course, have a wonderful rest of the night. God bless. And we, of course, will see tomorrow as well. So have a wonderful one. But let's go out with some Christmassy, because we have to, of course, mix it. We have to balance it. And therefore, of course, there's no better way to do it than, of course, with local, what I consider to be offerings for Christmas in terms of music. Let's hear.
Belly in my hand, neighbor give me piece of ham. Neighbor, oh yo yo, bring out the ham. Neighbor, ay, bring out the ham.
Well, people, of course, I will be at my own, enjoying my own. So see you later. Bye-bye. Have a wonderful one, incident-free. We'll see tomorrow night.
It's all too fast. Bring out the ham. Is the not just feel it's Christmas? Bring out the ham. Neighbor, hoy, hoy, hoy. Bring out the ham. Neighbor, ay, 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 ay. Bring out the ham. Neighbor, hoy, hoy, hoy. Bring out the ham. Neighbor, ay, 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 ay. Bring out the ham. Christmas time is trouble if you try to hide the meat. So rest it on the table.
Going house to house, my people, and they ain't know. I joined the party.
You're listening. You're listening to Oasis Sounds. Oasis Sounds.
We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We
this morning, as I accustomed doing each morn. As usual, I head straight for the kitchen. Right away, I knew something was wrong. Cake batter in a bowl, but the oven was cold. Looking wrong, I couldn't find a spoon. Not a protein was hanging. The ham still wanted boiling. I can't find my wife even. Seems like she born. Yvonne, why is Christmas Day you choose? Yvonne, girl, you have me so confused. It's Christmas.
Baila, baila! Santa leave the North Pole and come down to Trinidad. He say it's too cold in the North Pole, so he couldn't stay. He come down right away to have some fun in this land of sea and sun. Soca Santa, don't leave a bag of toys. Don't forget you have to share it with every girl and boy. Soca Santa, don't want to ride no sleigh in a big time Toyota Galabatin all day. Soca Santa, Riva! Soca Santa, Biga, biga. Santa say he intend to have a real good Christmas this time, and the place to be is this country. All them lovely chicks, parang music sick, and the tasty food